implanted on Europeans with a very poor diet. Finally, they learned maritime skill, mostly from China, the leading maritime nation of that day. This skill preserved by the Africans and the Arabs at the University of Salamanca in Spain. Europe began to get its courage back again. They began to learn latitude and longitude again. Began to master ships again. Began to go to Asia, looking for sweets and spices, something to put on that gosh darn awful European food so they could eat it. Wasn't looking for Africa at first. Discovered Africa on its way, looking for Asia. Then finally, they came to Africa not looking for slaves, looking for an African emperor named Prester John, that they thought he was a Christian, hoping he would help them against the Arabs. Finally, an African faker took advantage of these gullible Europeans and wrote a letter to Europe saying, I am the Prester John you've been looking for. I've got so many wives, so many camels, so many things. The letter was a fake. But Europe got its least on life. At last, somebody going to help us. They really was turning to Africa for help. They came as guests and stayed as conquerors. Africa has never been protected, not protected now. The people who control that front door let the conquerors in the north. The Africans let them in that western front door, thinking they were friends. The Arabs burst into that eastern door. The Boers, sometimes the French, came into the door from the south. The Africans in the south, seeing these Boers with no land, gave them land, plenty of it, enough of it. No cattle, give them some cattle. And some Africans, seeing them without, some of them without women, gave them women. You can't be a better guest than that. But he forgot one thing about the European that still prevails that you don't understand. He don't play fractions. He wants it all. And his new order is not a new order, it's an extension of the old order. He wants it all. He wants to control all the mineral, all the gold. He wants to control all of the wealth-producing resources all over the world, especially Africa. In the north, he's going to get help from the Africans and from the Arabs. In the south, he's going to get help from the Boers. Ultimately, Africa will have to military itself and drive both of them out of Africa. There must be no place in Africa where an African cannot walk with peace and dignity and with respect. No place. There can be nations in Africa where Arabs live, but there cannot be any Arab-dominated nation to the point where Africans cannot go there at will. Because he too is a conqueror. Now, after World War II, there were so many blacks trained in the best military science, skilled assemblymen, skilled signal corps, skilled in tanks, skilled in the Air Force. If we had the organization and the foresight, we could have dressed them in civilian clothes with their uniform and their suitcase and sent them to Africa as visitors. That at a certain time, they wouldn't go into South Africa as to end apartheid. They'd go and take over all of South Africa. They take it all. You get back from people the same way they took from you. You take it back. You do not bargain with a thief in your house. If a thief is in your house, I have said before, you bargain with the undertaker to take the thief away. If we are going to develop for ourselves a new world order, that new world order has to be based on nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and the unification of all African people of the world across all religious lines, all political lines, all color lines. We have to tell all those people got problems with us because the infusion of white blood come in the house and work for the better interest and liberation of all of us, or go to your father's house and see if he'll let you in. But if you're going to stay among us, we expect you to fight for our liberation. Or leave us alone. Get in the house and stay, or go out of the house and stay. There's 1 billion of us on the face of this earth. We can afford to lose a few people. A few people confused about the color problem, who they're going to be loyal to. Go ahead and be loyal to the other people. Remember now, if we in battle see you in our gun sight, we're not going to hold back the finger because it's you. Our new social order must counter the new social order in Europe, saying they must control everything. We're not asking to control everything. But there's certain geography in this world that belongs to us, and we should control all of it. There should be a hookup between the Caribbean islands, the Africans in the United States, 100 million Africans in Brazil, the 300 million Africans in the Western world, the 750 million Africans in Africa itself, the Africans in Asia, especially the so-called untouchables. You've got over 1 billion people on the face of this earth. Now, who do we need as an ally other than ourselves? Now, let me conclude by talking about our social order and what must our world order be. Our order must be self-reliance. Getting back what slavery and colonialism took away. And to do this, we've got to get back our mind, get back our confidence. I'm not impressed by people making beautiful speeches. Open up a shoelace factory. You'll impress me. We can do that. Open up a handkerchief factory. Don't tell me we can't do that. I made a speech 4 years ago in Kentucky at a family meeting. I challenged everybody to make their underwear. At least start manufacturing your underwear. And to get the point across, I put it the crudest possible way. People who can't make their drawers can't control a nation. 4 years later, a man and a wife team wrote me. So we have accepted the challenge. We have the underwear factory. We're sending you a set of underwear free of charge. Look how many people we can put to work. Now, we're just using one item right now, just underwear. Now, suppose we go to the shoes. We're putting more people to work. Go to the suits. We got to get into wool now. We got to get into sheep and how to shear the sheep and put the wool through the process. Got to divide it, wood, certain wool that make gabardine, certain wool make certain kind of other wool. All of it. I'm talking about putting people to work. I'm not talking about begging for jobs. I'm about creating jobs. Now, suppose Farrakhan and some of the other leaders who, with their stretch Mercedes-Benz, said, I will not ride in a Mercedes-Benz until my people make a Mercedes-Benz. And suppose Farrakhan stopped playing his violin before a Jewish audience to appease them. What's he got to apologize for? And suppose Jesse stopped crawling on his belly in an international audience. And suppose we get enough nerve to tell all of the leaders, you lead us with dignity, or you don't call yourself a leader. We have more leaders and less leadership than any people in America. Our new social order must be making everybody accountable to us. Every preacher, every store owner in our community, no matter who he is, accountable to us. And every store owner in the community gives something back to the community or get no trade from the community. Every preacher in the community, every church must contribute something to the betterment of the community, or we'll put nothing in the collection plate. This new social order must be based on Pan-African and African world nationalism. We must understand what happened to us after the Civil Rights Movement. What happened to the Caribbean Federation? Why did they drive out their leading technicians, advocates? Why did we let King be killed? Why do we still misinterpret Martin Luther King? Why do we keep talking about he had a dream when we forget that he had a plan? Why don't we read the whole speech? He got a dream. He said that near the end of the speech. He said a whole lot of useful things before he said, I got a dream. He was ending the speech then. Read what he said before he said that. He was just tapering it off. And someone else wrote that in the first place. He didn't even write that. Why can't we look at King as a great theologian who tried to give this nation a second chance, and the nation didn't appreciate it? This nation is not morally good enough to understand a concept as high as nonviolence. There you go. And King did not know enough about the origin and development of nonviolence to be more practical in his approach to it. He said he was following Mahatma Gandhi. He might have tried, but he never knew Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was not an internationalist. Mahatma Gandhi was an East Indian racist, nationalist, and faker. He did nothing for the blacks in South Africa. He was a brown-skinned Englishman. He resented being on the same train car with Africans. If you saw that picture of him, about him, they got most of it historically wrong. He didn't object. The main thing he objected to is not being put out of the white car. He objected to being put in the car with the Africans. He was a Cambridge-trained lawyer. Then finally, the train kept moving further down, and they stopped and put him and the Africans off the train, cleaned the car, and put whites in the car. Then he finally got the point. He still didn't do much for the Africans. He found the United Natives League, the United Colors League. He would deal with everything except the pure black African. when he left